A lot of people turn to religion because they want to have an answer for death.
Yeah.
Your mother died, as you wrote, so you must have a viewpoint on that. What's, your viewpoint on the death and the dying process?
Yeah, well, the classical Buddhist idea is that birth and death are happening constantly. So the universe is born and dies at every instant, like that. So that death isn't just something that happens at the end of, the person's allotted, whatever the average is, 80-something years or whatever they say. The death is happening now and now and now and now and now and now, constantly happening. On a wider scale, one of the problems, I'm not so into explaining death. There's that koan that I was reading about, and I just wrote about it recently. Somebody asked what's the story? Somebody asked what happened when so-and-so died.
Where does he go?
Where does he go after he died? And the Zen master answers, when he was younger, he met this other guy somewhere, it doesn't matter. And then the student says, well, I didn't ask you about that. I asked you where did what's his name go when he died? And the teacher says, well, as to that, that's the kind of question that makes you think. The end. And the book I was reading where this koan was brought up said, well, this is a very mystical answer which shows that Buddhism is beyond logic. But it doesn't show that Buddhism is beyond logic. It's a very logical answer. Because the only thing you can do with that question is speculate on it. Because we don't have enough evidence as to what happens. Nobody's reliably come back from the dead and told us about it. Well, maybe Jesus did. I don't know. Actually, Jesus, even in the Bible, doesn't tell us much about what happened when he was dead for those 3 days. So even he didn't tell us a whole lot.
And then he wasn't even dead for 3 days.
Wasn't he?
No.
Well, I don't know. Anyway. Well, nobody knows. But anyway, whether you believe that story or not, still it doesn't give you any information. So I have the feeling or the kind of maybe belief that the universe as a whole is one complete piece. And nothing can really leave it because there's nowhere to go outside of the universe. It's always contained here. So, this is just my own speculation. But is that you can't go anywhere. So you're always around in one form or another. Now, having said that, I don't like to speculate any further than that, because I think anything you go, even saying that much is probably a little too much. But I think anything you go beyond that just gets into the realm of what my friend Bob likes to call brain farts. It's just like making up stuff. So you can kind of organize your brain and say, well, the person dies and then goes into the third bardo for 49 days and stays there and then manifests as a flower or whatever. I don't know. What it goes on, or reincarnates or all that stuff. I don't think we know enough to really say, and those explanations don't strike me as being very complete or useful. I still have this feeling that I can't quite explain, just to talk about my own mother who died in 2007, that she hasn't left yet. And I don't, it's not like she comes to me and says, Brian, you must eat pizza. I would say. She'd probably tell me a joke or something. If she came back from the dead. So no, I don't have that kind of feeling, but I have this feeling that that whatever she was hasn't disappeared. It's still there. But that doesn't mean I can talk to her the way I used to talk to her or any of this. And death is people always want to escape death, and I was trying to talk to somebody about the fact that I don't. One of the things the practice has given me is I don't fear annihilation anymore, which is not the same as not fearing death. I mean, I don't particularly want to die or get cancer or anything like that, you know. And I suppose if you probed my brain, you could find a certain amount of fear of that happening. But I don't any longer have this fear that I'm someday not going to exist, because that, just from what I've gone through related to the Zazen practice, I've kind of seen that idea is a bit absurd. I mean, whatever I am, whatever I was half a minute ago is gone, you know, and it's not coming back, and it's as good as dead. So in a way, there isn't this thing that continues and then goes, oh my God, you know, it's gone. So I don't have that, and that's actually been a tremendous relief not to have that anymore, because that's a big deal, you know. You're like, oh my God, you know, it just seems kind of an absurd point of view, you know. But which isn't to say, you know, a lot of people got upset. I remember going on the internet, and this was years ago, and I went and tried to find this reference again and couldn't find it. But I think it was some people getting very upset because I think it was either Katagiri Roshi or Suzuki Roshi had apparently, they both had cancer, and they both died of cancer. Had one or the other of them had apparently said sometime a few days or a day before dying, I don't want to die. And this revelation that this statement had been made by a Zen master caused a lot of people to freak out on the internet. And I remember it must have been 10 or 15 years. You know, it was like I remember finding this like when the internet had first sort of appeared in the world, you know, 10 years ago or whatever. And reading this bunch of comments and things people have made about that. But you know, that to me now it doesn't seem. I think this revelation that this statement had been made upset a lot of people, because they're like, oh, even the Zen master says I don't want to die. Why are we even practicing? But it's not that. You know, I don't want to die. We don't know the context in which it was said. He might have been saying that, you know, for the sake of students. I don't want to die. I'm sorry, you know, but this is what's going on. And nobody really wants to die. You know, that would be silly. But I think it's sort of a natural process that has to happen. If people lived forever, it would be a pretty miserable world. You know, every so often there's an article comes out where they say they're going to defeat the aging gene and engineer people who live forever. I even read something recently that said there are people living right now who will never die because we're so close to fixing this problem of death, you know, so that people live forever. And for one thing, I don't think that's actually possible. I mean, you know, mark my words, you know, maybe someday people will be laughing that I had said this is not possible. Ha ha ha! Here I am, 7,000 years old. Maybe it'll be me, you know. Ha! What did they know? Back then, those people in the 21st century. But I just don't believe it. You know, I don't think you can do that. And I don't really think you'd want to do it ultimately, because it would just get kind of miserable being a 7,000-year-old person. You know, in science fiction novels and things, it always sounds like a really cool thing, but I just don't think it's possible, and I don't think it would be that good or useful, and things would, you know, everybody be, you'd have like, you know, people become conservative when they're old. We're in a world full of 7,000-year-old people. You kids with your, there are no kids anymore. You 5,000-year-old people with your Banson and your would just be kind of boring.